Hello everyone, Jerry Tabatt with you here with another edition of our military community, and we're going to talk about something today that a lot of people don't even realize we have in this area. So joining me today to tell us all about it, and I'm going to read this to make sure I get it right, big long title, is Dan Conley, who is a civilian, Air Force Rescue Coordination Center out of Tyndall. Dan, thanks for coming in today.
Thanks, Jerry. Thanks for having me.
You know, a lot of people don't even know we have a unit like that out there.
That's very true. I travel around the U.S. and in other areas, and it's interesting the number of people that don't realize we're there, and it's as simple as a 1-800 number.
Yeah, and you've got so many different things you do. We're going to talk about a whole bunch of different things, but first of all, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you actually got into this.
Okay, well, I came into the Air Force in 1980, and during that time I cross-trained into command and control, which is like the command post at the base. And part of that, an offshoot of that, was search and rescue. So in 1989, I got orders to go to the Aerospace Rescue and Recovery Service.
Wow.
And it was actually at Tyndall Air Force Base in Illinois. And I've been with that unit ever since, between the rest of my Air Force career. Spent 24 years in, and then as a civilian as well since 2006. So I've been with the unit just over 35 years.
It's amazing how as old Air Force guys, we leave our military career and kind of bend right into a civilian career that's saying.
You bet.
Let's talk about what is the mission of Air Force Rescue Coordination Center.
All right. Our job is we do civil search and rescue. Now, a lot of times you think of search and rescue in the military as being combat. There is that side of it, but this is unique because we do civil search and rescue. Our job is to assist in distress beacons, missing persons, missing aircraft, rescues, whatever the community needs around the 48 states.
And you're on alert 24/7 for this, right?
Yes, sir, we are. We are 24/7, 365. Let's say there's a hurricane, Michael, that comes in, we relocate and we never drop a second of watching what's going on in the U.S.
How many people do you have out there?
We currently have 38 people assigned between the active duty and the civilians.
And before we get into all the particulars and everything, we've got 5 pictures here. I just want to pop them up there one at a time and let you tell me about those 5 pictures.
Sure.
So let's go ahead and see the first one and see what this gentleman is up to here.
This is one of our staff sergeants at the unit. He's on the phone, probably talking to the FAA or an airport, trying to find a distress beacon that's going off at the airport, or he might be talking to the registered owner of a distress beacon to make sure that everything's okay.
Now, is he active duty with that uniform?
Yes, sir. All people at the unit are active duty.
All right, good deal. All right, let's move on to the next one here and see what we got. We got all kinds of pictures here. Oh, there you go.
Okay, that's our unit patch. It's very unique. We had it specifically made through the heraldry service for the Army, and it's unique to us.
All right, good deal. This is so interesting. Uh-oh, everybody at work.
Yeah, this is one of the classes we teach. It's a 3-day introduction to search and rescue, and this class actually was held here at Gulf Coast State College. And we have military, civilian, and all different kinds of agencies that come, and we teach them in a 3-day class on basic search and rescue.
Now, before we go on to the next one, are these all U.S. services, or do you have like Canadian services and things like that involved too?
We mostly just do the U.S. We do federal, state, local, volunteer, military, but we also do sometimes have either Canadian or Mexican individuals come to the classes too.
Oh, who's that guy?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know who he is. They pay him way too much for what he does.
Now, are you actually conducting a briefing here, or?
Yes, sir, I am. We ran the exercise. The map behind you is part of a ground exercise where they're looking for somebody on the ground, and I'm going through the process of what happened in the exercise.
Okay, and I think we got one more here we're going to take a peek at. There you go.
Okay. Yeah, once again, probably talking to somebody about a distress beacon. Maybe talking to an active duty helicopter unit going out to do a rescue or something like that.
Now, these are all gentlemen we're showing here, but you also have some ladies that work with you too, Dan.
Yes, sir, we do. We have a good mix of, and we have some great ladies that work there, and they do a really good job.
All right. Okay. First of all, let's get into some of this stuff here. What is SAR? S-A-R. And what is the operational area of coverage for SAR?
Okay, SAR stands for Search and Rescue, and our operational area is the 48 states. We work directly operationally, we work for the commander at NORTHCOM, Northern Command, which is in Colorado Springs, Colorado. That 4-star is responsible for search and rescue in the 48 states. He is also responsible for the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico, so we conduct and assist in search and rescue in those areas as well. But it's the 48 states.
And one thing that's kind of interesting too, we were talking before we started this program here, is a lot of people don't realize that Tyndall is the only Air Force base with active Navy.
Yes, sir.
And you actually work with them if they have a problem in the Gulf, right?
Yeah, absolutely. If there's something that's close by in the Gulf and they can get a ship out there, or we work with the Coast Guard out of Mobile, and if there's something that's in the Gulf, we work directly with them and we coordinate whatever needs to be done.
Now, you monitor all kinds of different things in different areas. How do you actually get your team assembled and go ahead to get them all ready to go on this mission? How do you get notified, first of all?
Okay, notification comes in any number of ways. We have a 1-800 number that anybody who can pick up a phone and dial that number can call us. We also we have direct connection with the FAA, and we also have a direct feed through a satellite system that feeds us all of the information if a distress beacon around the U.S. goes off.
How do you determine, Dan, because in today's society, we've always got people that want to, play jokes or something like that. How do you determine the validity of, say, a distress call that comes into you?
It's a good question. Our job is to treat everything as it's distress until we can prove otherwise. So every distress beacon notification that comes in, every phone call that comes in, we treat it as though someone is out there and needs our support until we can prove otherwise. So everything, as far as we're concerned, is somebody that needs our help.
Okay, let's hypothetically say you get a call, someone's in distress, they're lost out in the woods or something like that. Once you verify that and you get ready to go, what are the steps to get ready and go?
Okay, good question. If there's someone that's lost in the woods and needs, we have to go out and search for them. There's a number of ways we get notified through a distress beacon that they may have. They can use their cell phone, and the iPhone has a distress capability on it, the newer ones, that we could get a call from Apple. There are other types of devices we could get a call from who would call us and say, there's someone who's missing. The county sheriff could call us, the state could call us. But once that call is made, our job is to find out who's responsible. Normally, missing people is the local law enforcement. Mm-hmm. We would contact that law enforcement agency and tell them what we know and then ask them if they need our support. If they say yes, then our job is to find the right resource. The closest, most capable is the way we look at it.
And that brings up a point I was just going to ask you about, talking about resources. Do you have like your own unit there? Do you have like helicopters available? Do you have search and rescue dogs available? Do you have medics available and things like that?
That's a good question. We don't, at the AFRCC, we don't have anything readily available to us personally. Because we deal with all 48 states, we have agreements with every state. And in those agreements, we have a list of resources available to us, only as far as military, federal resources. We use the military, we use the FAA, we use Customs and Border Protection. Anybody that's federal that we can call on who will assist us. If it's something like a search dog or a search team, that's a civilian resource, we can't task them. We can't even ask them because it's federal. But what we can do is if they need to be moved from point A to point B, we can assist in that manner. But the AFRCC is unique because we have no capability readily available. We have what we call an ask, not task capability. Mm-hmm. But we have developed a rapport with all of the units.
Yeah, and that's what's good. Do you have like if say the sheriff's office is looking for somebody and they need your assistance and you coordinate all this out, do you have like a mobility type unit that can go right physically be with them on the search to give them information that you get and things like that?
Right, we do. Civil Air Patrol is the Air Force Auxiliary, and they're all around the U.S. We use them quite often. About 80 to 85% of everything we do involves Civil Air Patrol in one way or another. What they'll do is they'll assign a team or an incident command team to go to wherever that incident is and support that agency that's responsible. And we can do that. Or if we send a military unit, they can provide that support as well.
How do you get funded?
How do we get funded?
Yeah.
That's a good question. Nowadays, I don't know.
Okay, let's see. Check here.
Yeah, but we have a line item budget at Air Force headquarters up
Okay.
in D.C.,
Yeah.
and so our budget comes directly from the headquarters Air Force.
Of course, now you, Dan, you guys are 24 hours a day in case you needed and alert for any signals or anything that come in. How many people do you have on a shift at one time, and what's basic responsibility once they're on that shift?
Again, a good question. Our normal shift during a day shift, and right now we're fairly well staffed, so we're working 8-hour shifts. If our staffing due to PCSs or something changes, we can go to 12 hours. But we try to do 8 hours because 8 hours sitting in front of a monitor can be a lot.
Yeah.
But we have, normally on a day shift, we have a senior controller who's responsible for that shift, and then we have 2 controllers that work with him because it gets very busy. That's from 8 o'clock till 4 o'clock. The next shift comes on at 4 o'clock, and we usually have 3 people as well. And then our mid shift, which starts at midnight, we usually go down to 2 because that's when the United States goes to sleep. So, and it's interesting because we can see the U.S. wake up from about 7:30 or 8 o'clock through the rest of the day. You can just watch it go across the U.S.
Now, another interesting point. Say a signal comes in that a ship in the Gulf, someone has fallen overboard. And you get this signal picked up and everything, but it happens to be a ship from a different country. Are you authorized to talk with those individuals?
Yes, sir, we do. We do that quite often. It doesn't matter who it is. If that person's in distress, whatever country they're from, we'll support that. We'll send a helicopter. Usually we send a helicopter and an HC-130, which is, they do air refueling.
Right.
And the Air Force is unique that way. We're the only ones that have air refuelable helicopters. We will go 900 miles off the California coast, which we've done. And we'll pick that person up and we'll transport them to safety to the hospital.
Which brings up another point, Dan. I mean, if a ship from a foreign country makes contact with you, a lot of times there's that language barrier.
Right.
Do you have linguists there that can, say, speak different languages?
Not there, but we have a contract with a company where we can call that company up and we can connect those agencies together and they will translate for us.
That's a pretty big operation, and you got a lot that you're responsible for. And of course, one of the big things too is, I'm an old Air Force meteorologist, and I actually, when I was in the service, had to coordinate with some of that because weather plays a big part. When we're dealing with hurricanes, you got problems.
Absolutely. It can get very busy. I know when Michael came through or some of the hurricanes came through in the southern Florida, there's a lot of airplanes that get tipped over, a lot of boats that get destroyed, and those beacons, those distress beacons on those vessels and aircraft go off. And what we have to do is we have to wait until the area is cleared and we're permitted to go in, and then we'll send Civil Air Patrol in, and they will find all of those beacons and shut them off for us.
Now, how closely do you work with, say, the Coast Guard here at the Navy base?
The one here at the Navy base, not as often because they control this small area around the bay, but we work with the Coast Guard daily around the U.S. There are 7 Coast Guard districts, and we work with those district command centers daily.
Now, all these different things that you do, Dan, you don't just go into this job and say, okay, I'm going to be a rescue coordination specialist. You have to train. What is the training that needs to be done? And it's not only just to get in there, but you have to train on a daily basis.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Our training program right now is 90. It's 90 days. It can extend if it needs to, but it goes in 3 different phases. We teach people how to do distress beacons first, because that's a majority of what we do. Then we do what we call non-aircraft, which is rescues and medevacs and those kind of things. Then we teach them looking for a lost aircraft, which gets very involved. And that 90 days will get them certified as a basic controller. And then to become a senior controller to run the shift, there's additional training that has to happen there. So, and then you're right, there's training that goes on every day because you never know who's at the other end of the phone.
How big is, say, your social media net? And let's face it, everything today, or not everything, but most things are done through media, social media. How does that play? Do you actually use things like TikTok and things of that nature?
Not for the unit, but when we're investigating something,
Okay.
We call it Facebook stalking. I know that's not the right way to call it. But we use all of those avenues to try and help locate the people we're looking for.
Now, I know all of this stuff that goes out, you use these different social media. People see what's going on. Mm-hmm. They always try to help.
Yes.
What is your advice to someone, even though they may be qualified, and what's your advice to them?
If someone wants to help, probably the best thing to do is to contact your local law enforcement or the county emergency management and ask them how you can help. That's the best way.
Yeah, because we run into so many times where, well, I was talking to my buddy Joe, and he says he knows where that guy is possibly out there. Why don't you go over here?
Sure.
You don't need to hear that. You need to get it to an official person that is working with that rescue and recovery.
Absolutely. It's the person responsible that needs to know that information. If they do need to call us, we're happy to pass it on, but it's probably best if you find out who's responsible for that response and notify them.
Now, we just had an incident here a few months ago where we had the plane and the helicopter collide. What is your coordination between Mission Control, FAA? How does that coordination work? And did you play a part locally in that operation?
Our coordination with the FAA is we are always talking to the FAA, whether it's on the phone. We have a direct link through their network system, and we hear everything that's going on that the FAA controllers are talking about with each other. So we're always monitoring that to make sure we're on top of it. This specific incident, because it was so localized, we weren't involved in it. The response was immediate. Everybody was right there. We had the Marine F-18 that went down out west in California a few months ago. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. We were involved in that one because we had to go help locate it. But the one up in D.C. Between the helicopter and the aircraft, it was localized. We didn't get involved.
But if you need to, you will talk to them.
Absolutely. We did monitor it, but the response was there.
There's a lot of, and we've got some unique things here. We've got the Gulf where there's all kinds of activity. We've got beautiful beaches in that. Mm-hmm. About how many incidents do you get per year that you actually do here, and what seems to be the number one incident that's reported to you?
Again, a good question. We get, let me put it this way. In 23, we had almost 12,000 incidents in a year.
Wow.
In 2024, we had almost 14,000 incidents in a year, and we're surpassing that number already this year. As people tend to do things that, and I hate to say this, people do things they probably shouldn't do.
Right.
Today, the thing is, where can I go and what can I do that can give me a rush or that I haven't done before?
Right.
And that puts people in distress. Also, the distress beacons that are being sold, there are over 1 million distress beacons out there right now. So of those 1 million distress beacons, how many are people setting off by accident? How many are real distresses? How many are beacon malfunctions? That's our number one, is the beacon. And that's about 85% of everything we do.
Wow.
So that's airplanes, vessels, and people. But yeah, and so it's a lot.
There's some unique things here, especially with the Gulf. People don't realize that come down here on vacation that this is the Gulf of America. Mm-hmm. And it's totally different than your lake back home or your stream back home.
Yes, it is.
What are some things that you've noticed over your years working here and the number of saves that's been involved that actually deal with people not understanding or not taking the time to educate themselves on the dangers of this big Gulf water out here?
Yeah. First of all, let me say on the saves, we are almost reaching 20,000 saves that we've been involved with. So imagine a small town of 20,000 people that would not exist. And again, we're just bean counters. It belongs to the people at what I call the pointy end of the spear, the people actually out there doing it. So almost 20,000 saves. It's going to be a big moment for us. But as far as this is concerned, the Gulf here, this Gulf can be very dangerous. People have to be careful. They have to read the signs about the flags. They have to understand what a rip current is. They have to know that the animals and fish that swim out there, that's their area, not ours.
Right.
And sometimes people don't realize that. They don't take time to educate themselves and make sure that they understand what's going on.
You know, I don't know if you can talk about this or not, Dan, but one thing I've always, when I decided I wanted to do this interview with you, remember a while ago when the balloon come floating over Alaska and all that, and come all the way down to the East Coast? Were you ever involved with anything there?
We weren't involved in that balloon. You're talking about the one from China?
Yes.
We weren't involved in that one. We did monitor it. But if you remember a number of years ago, the balloon that the gentleman released in Colorado, that he said his son was in it,
yeah,
we did do that one.
Oh,
we were involved in that one. I was the senior controller that day. But we did monitor that one, and we tracked it. We put people up in the air to watch it. And fortunately, it did come down safe. There was nobody in it, but we definitely did that one.
You know, you guys are in the business of rescue, recovery. You go out and investigate an incident, and you get all these calls in and all this, and it turns out that it's not true. Mm-hmm. And you get some of those. How do you deal with that, and what kind of penalties can an individual get for getting Air Force Coordination Center, Rescue Coordination Center involved in something that's wasting your time, basically?
Sure. First of all, there's no cost for search and rescue if we're involved.
Right.
We don't charge anyone. That's what we do, our public service. If someone knowingly sets off a distress beacon and they're not in distress, the penalty through the FCC can be 1 year in jail and
wow.
a $10,000 fine.
Yeah.
Sometimes more, it just depends. But other than that, it really falls on the local responder and the law enforcement to decide if they want to press any charges. There's really nothing we do about it, but we turn that over to the local authorities and let them make that decision.
But it's nice to people realize and know now that there is a unit right here.
Yes, sir.
That is available to take care of those things, and you guys are doing a good job. Keep up the good work over there. A couple other things about that. When you guys are out assisting other agencies, how does the input work? Do you have a central commander that everybody talks to, like say with the sheriff's office is running this now? So do you all coordinate together, and do you discuss together? And is there any problem getting your views out to other agencies?
Sure. We do assign what we call an incident commander. That's the person responsible on scene for that incident. And we have a very good process of talking to that person, making sure they understand what we see from our end, and also understanding what they're seeing from their end. We're sitting here at Tyndall Air Force Base. I'm not out in the woods searching like they are. But we've built a communication process that works very well for us. We use some online chat information. We talk on the phones, and the system works pretty well. I'm surprised.
You know, listen to what you talk about and everything, Dan. The personal satisfaction of a job well done has to make you feel good. And you got 30 plus people in yourself here. What's the general feeling after everything comes together? You helped coordinated the search and the rescue, and everything comes together. Of course, you have a post briefing and everything, but what's the general feeling amongst all of you? How do you feel?
I always enjoy watching a new controller, someone that's new to the unit, get their first save. You can see the beam on their face, you can see the relaxation of their body, and it's just. I always tell people the AFRCC is a unique organization because we have instant gratification, instant results of what happens, and it's those saves that makes a difference, and it's a great thing to watch.
And the families, I mean, do you ever, once you help with a save or something like that, do you ever get back in contact with that individual or individuals and the family in that?
On rare occasions, but we often get letters from the families saying thank you for what we did. So that's very appreciative. And we put those up for people to read so that they can see what the work that they did made a difference.
I'm going to have you go through about 2 or 3 different saves in this area. What's probably the best one that you did here in this area that really makes you feel good?
In this area? Probably, I would have to say it'd have to be an aircraft mission. There was an aircraft mission where he was going from the east coast of Central Florida up to Tennessee. And the aircraft, they lost him on radio and radar, and we were able to find him in southern Georgia and save his life. And that was very satisfying because it was close to home.
That's got to be really something else to see that. We had the SpaceX program bring our astronauts back home. And a lot of people didn't realize how close they actually landed to us. They were not too far offshore from the Cedar Key area and that area. How were you involved in that? I know you had to be involved in some way because that is a huge, huge deal.
Right. We monitor all the launches and all the recoveries from the AFRCC. There's a unit at Patrick Air Force Base, which actually that's their primary job, is to support those things. And we stay in direct contact with them during the launches and recoveries.
That's something else to see something like that, let me tell you. Now, if someone wants some more information on this, are you up to tours of the facility and that?
We love to have people come by and visit. Matter of fact, we had visitors yesterday come by and visit the unit. And we'll bring you in, we'll give you a briefing of who we are and what we do, we'll show you around a little bit, and if you've got time, you can sit down and work an incident with us. We work inside of a compound, so we have to sign you in, but it's unclassified, so we can bring you in anytime you want. Love to have you come visit with us.
Well, I may just have to do that. I have to clone myself. But, you know, it's amazing what goes on out there. And as retired Air Force myself, I appreciate you guys still sticking around and doing things like that. How important is it for children to be involved with something like this? Because, I mean, if you go out and like talk to schools or something, this is amazing for them. Absolutely.
There's a program called Hug a Tree, which has been around for a long time. I used to teach Hug a Tree, but that program tells children that if you get lost, hug a tree. You stay where you are. Somebody's going to come find you. But to educate children on, at least to help them understand that there are people that if they do get lost, teach them what to do when they get lost, and then let them know that somebody's going to come looking for you.
There's help on the way.
Right.
We're almost out of time, Dan, but I want to leave some time here if you give me about a minute of your final thoughts.
Okay. You know, I think it's interesting that it's the AFRCC it's a unique organization. It's the only one like it in the 48 states. We are the busiest rescue coordination center in the world. We do more incidents than all of the, I think, rescue incidents than just about anybody else. But it's important that people understand that we're here to help. Our job is to get the right resource to the victim. So I shouldn't call them victims, to the person, because our job is to help save lives. Our job is, number one, to help save the person that's out there in distress. Our second thing is to support the units that are going out. And then third of all, to support the other people working in the RCC. It's a very unique small family.
And people have to be patient.
Yes, sir.
All right, Dan, let's wrap it up for this little episode we have here now. Dan Conley, Air Force Rescue Coordination Center, thanks for coming in today. We appreciate that, and good luck out there. I'm Jerry Tabatt. This is another edition of our military community.